Hi everyone, I'm Anna, editor of Sanctuary, Modern Green Homes magazine. As you may know, Sanctuary is published by Renew, formerly the Alternative Technology Association, a not-for-profit member-based organisation that's been advocating for sustainable living since 1980. I've been working at Renew in various roles for 10 years now and took over as Sanctuary editor last year. The current issue is our milestone 50th. We've been publishing since 2005. And we took the opportunity to celebrate some current trends in sustainable design in Australia, as well as to take a look back at some of our favourite sustainable homes from the early years of the magazine. I hope you've seen it. Now, at Sanctuary, as you probably know, we really love to bring you stories of well-designed, thermally comfortable homes that are just delightful spaces to live in, especially when they've been achieved on a modest budget. Today, I'm talking to Jenny Edwards, a building scientist from Canberra. She runs design firm Lighthouse Architecture and Science, specialists in energy efficient, rigorously tested homes. She's also a regular contributor to Sanctuary and our sister magazine Renew on a wide range of topics, from how to choose a green builder to mechanical ventilation to blower door testing for building airtightness. She's also the proud owner, with her partner David Dufty, of this house, featured in our current issue. The house is nicknamed the Canberra Beach House because, as Jenny says, it's such a cool place to be, we actually feel less motivated to go away, which is a definite plus just at the moment. It's a great example of a high-performing family home built on a budget, using standard materials, a modular design approach, and careful attention to detail. It's modest in size too, at 150 square metres on a 405 square metre block in the new suburb of Wright in Canberra's southwest. Still, it fits in 3 bedrooms and a study, plus there's a productive food garden, a courtyard, and a deck with a vine-covered pergola. At the end of our talk, we'll have time to answer a small number of questions, so please send them through using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. If you have any technical difficulties, please use the chat feature, and our behind-the-scenes helpers will assist. So, Jenny.
Hi.
Tell us a bit about how your house project came about. What were you aiming for?
To be comfortable, number one. My partner, David, and I had lived in a succession of thermally challenged rental houses in Canberra. So we had frozen through winters and we had sweltered through summers. And I already knew what it was like to live in a great house, because my previous home, which is a renovation project that actually featured in Sanctuary issue number 20, Thorn Place House, we had turned it into a really comfortable, energy efficient house. So I knew what life could be like. David hadn't lived in one, but he had seen and visited other lighthouses that we had designed. And we decided it was about time we got comfortable again. So we started looking for land, and affordable land, as everyone knows, is really hard to find. But this block was still available. And the reason it was available was because of its size and because of its tricky orientation. Most project builders had decided that they couldn't fit a family home on it, and it was too hard even to achieve the 6-star minimum EER requirement. We knew that that wasn't true. We had already designed a 7.5-star house next door on the west side of this one for a downsizing retired couple. So we set about modifying that design to suit our family and wanted to show that we could really achieve something even higher performance. That's how it began.
And as you say, your block is narrow and has a less than ideal orientation with north to the street. It's actually great to see that, in fact, you don't have to have the perfect orientation to design really high performing houses. Absolutely. Yours rates at 8.2 stars for energy efficiency, which is considerably better than the 6-star minimum that the builders thought they couldn't get. What was your design solution for the tricky orientation, Jenny, to ensure you got enough north sun into the house?
Cool. I'm going to start sharing my screen and show you the floor plan now. Let me hop in. You can all see that, I hope?
Yes.
Cool. So this is the block, the long skinny block. It's 30 metres long and 13.5 metres wide with north to the street. So we had to sacrifice some of that northern frontage to the car accommodation. but we didn't put a double garage in like a lot of people. So the first thing I really want to stress is the first major design solution was that we used the NatHERS, or National House Energy Rating Scheme software, the software that generates the Energy Efficiency Rating, or EER. It's a fabulous design tool, and we use it right from the concept design stage with all of our projects. So using that tool, we were really able to optimise things to suit the site and the particular, our climate, you know, the Canberra climate. The software has 69 different climate zones. So we were designing for Canberra, the extremes of winter where we get to -8 and the extremes of summer where we get, you know, heat waves above 40 degrees. So that said, that's how we integrated the science. And then it was over to the architects to work out how to get that sunshine in and to make the house incredibly functional, space efficient, and beautiful. You know, how could we connect to the yard in lots of different ways, even though it was a small block? So easy to get sun into this front part of the house, which is the dining kitchen, because it faces directly north and spills out onto the front deck. The car accommodation is there to the north, but we cleverly put a western courtyard in. So we've created space here so that sun spills over the top of the carport and floods into this room, which is actually David's home-based office where he writes. So plenty of winter sun spills in here. And then both of these bedrooms have a glazed north-facing door, so a full-height glass door. So again, they get flooded with winter midday sun. Only this bedroom doesn't have a northern window, but it's still a very comfortable room. And then the second living space, of course, doesn't get direct northern light. And this is a space that I was most worried about. I'm a real northern light junkie, and I thought that I wouldn't like this room so much, but it's actually a really beautiful space to be in, I think largely because it has fabulous connection to the eastern garden, which is now growing incredibly well, and it looks out to the western courtyard and things. So it's still a really nice space.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say that one of the other things that is really important in the designing is the windows. We stress how we like to use standard materials. I should say that solar passive design is not just about pointing the glass north. It's really important to get the size of the windows right. Too often Australian houses have too much glass. So when we do the thermal performance modelling, we're really making sure that the window sizes are ensuring that the house performs really well in winter as well as in summer. And the software allows you to not only look at the overall rating of the house, but to look at each zone individually at the heating and cooling requirements. So window sizes is really important to the way we design.
And I remember you saying that your house actually has probably a little more east and west glazing than would be entirely optimal.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's right. It's always a balance. We stress to our clients, it's not like science wins. When you're designing a house, you have to balance the functionality, the aesthetics and the thermal side of things. And because of this orientation of the house, we do have a lot more yard to the east and west. And to make a house feel and function really well or beautifully, you want to connect to that. So we do have more glass along the east than is typical of the houses we design on blocks that have got better orientation to the north, and a bit more glazing over to the west. So as a result, it's really important that we design to shade that really well. So you'll see there's lots of deciduous vines and also external shading devices to block out that hot summer sun.
Speaking of that, would you like to give us a little photo tour of your house?
Yeah, let's do that. Why isn't it moving? Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. They're zooming in on the house. I forgot to zoom in for you, but there's a closer look. But to give you some context, this is where I'm actually sitting now. I'm sitting in that second, or the chair closest to you. The dog isn't sitting in the sun at the moment, but he's usually there. And I'm looking out to those autumn leaves at the moment, although a lot of them have been blown off. But let's take a step back and head out onto the street. In fact, you might want to play Spot the Dog during this little photo tour. He's in most of the shots. But we're looking directly from the north here, down the centre of the house. And you can see the car accommodation, even that we've put some thought into and used timber battens rather than a solid door. So it means that that space is nice and light filled. So when you're in the carport, you've got natural light. It's not a dark, dingy, horrible place to be. Moving into that carport now, you can see my partner David coming out the front entry, which is actually a little airlock so that it seals off from the rest of the house in winter if we're opening up. We don't want to lose all our lovely heat. And then you move through the carport to the western courtyard space. And this image shows very nicely that this is the window to David's study. And this is the glazed door to one of our son's bedrooms. So they face due north, and in winter the sun floods right through almost to the back wall in those rooms. Moving into the house now, we've come through the little airlock and we're standing in the doorway looking across to the kitchen. So kitchen to your right and then down the hallway to the house. But we're going to turn left and look across the dining room next. This shot shows you, this is winter solstice on our first winter. I was really excited to see. I had modelled how far I thought the sun would penetrate, and this is how far it came into the house on the 21st of June in 2017 and every year after. So we get loads of passive gain into that front room. Then
Are you happy with the warmth of the floor, Jenny?
Yeah, we are, because it's a concrete slab, but it's a fully insulated concrete slab. So we've got R1 insulation to the underside of the slab and the vertical edges, which would not be appropriate in every climate of Australia. So again, I stress, you design for your particular climate zone and the way you design a house. When you insulate a slab, you really have to protect it from sunstrike over summer. So the slab is surprisingly warm. People are quite shocked by that.
And not too warm in summer by the sound of it.
No, yeah, because we do shade it. So there were, our first year was a bit more challenging. We had to put a lot of shade cloth up while we waited for the plants to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's doing well. So spilling out onto the deck, and in this photo you can notice that there's actually a sitting space. That front room is wide enough that it not only functions as a dining room, it's also got a sitting space. Then looking from the other direction back toward the house, our grapevines have actually grown a heap more since this shot. So next summer we really will have full shade from the grapes, which is great. And Zach is actually in this shot if you look very carefully. Then moving back into the house, past the dining room, to the kitchen again. I put this shot in to show that there is another glazed door here. So from the kitchen you can actually connect out to that western courtyard. So that's that doorway. So the front space actually connects to two living areas, which makes it feel really nice. There's also another door here, and there's our heat pump for our heating. You head through that to go into the lounge room, which I'll show you next. Oh, just wanted to show you my grapevines. Any excuse. Now into that lounge room. So this is the room I was less confident about enjoying, but I actually love it. So that's looking out to that western courtyard. Zach will find the sun wherever he can. Every house has a laundry. This is my laundry. Mainly I wanted to show you that you walk through that to go out to the eastern garden. So on this skinny block, we've only got a 3 metre strip down the eastern side. But as you hinted, Anna, we've managed to get a lot of productive garden into that space. And it's now looking and feeling really, really nice. And again, Zach gets to enjoy that a lot. If we turn back round, come back up the little deck to come into the laundry, we go past the heat pump that heats the hot water. The compressor and things sits on the back deck, and the storage tank actually sits in a cupboard inside my laundry. I don't have a photo of that, but you can see it on the plans. We've got an eastern bathroom. One thing to note here is there's an infrared heater panel on the ceiling. I'll talk about that a little bit later. This is my bedroom. It's got an eastern window, but you can see the lovely midday winter sun penetrating right back or coming across here from the northern door, which I'll show you in this shot. So again, this room, even though it's on the rear southeastern corner of the house, it is still getting that lovely northern light. Our bathroom, which faces south, this morning when I woke up, this bathroom was at 16.5 degrees. We'd had absolutely no heating on overnight, and it's been miserable and overcast here for 3 days. So no heating at all used in that bathroom for over a year, and 16.5 degrees.
That's impressive.
The southwestern bedroom, this is the one that doesn't have northern light, but it's still a lovely space because it's got a window out to the south, and a nice high, small but high western window. So 2 sources of light, potential for cross ventilation. It's still a lovely space to be in. And don't we all wish the weather was like that at the moment? But that's sort of the end of my tour. If you
Great, thank you. So maybe you'd like to just stop sharing your screen now, Jenny, and we'll come back to the videos.
Yep.
Thank you for that. So speaking of the 8.2 star rating, what other factors aside from the design contributed to that? You mentioned in the article in Sanctuary that you were determined to show that it's possible to achieve great things with standard construction methods and materials.
Yeah. So look, I've already talked about windows. I'll take the opportunity to highlight that again. So everything we used as standard construction, and here in the Canberra climate, I consider double glazing to be standard. I think anyone who's building new in a colder climate in Australia should be using double glazing now. So double glazing, but getting the window sizes right is really important. So paying very, very careful attention to the windows. Don't think that going to double glazing or triple glazing fixes everything. You still got to design well for your site and climate. So enough about windows. The other thing I wanted to talk about here really is something that doesn't contribute directly to the star rating itself, but is really important to a house's performance, is air tightness. So the software has to make an assumption because it's a theoretical model. It's not about the house when it's built. It's a prediction of how it will perform. So it assumes a level of air tightness, but in reality, houses can actually achieve much higher levels of air tightness. And people may have heard of the passive house approach. We are really concerned and interested in air tightness, but we don't use any extra air barrier membranes or fancy technologies. We just rely on really simple detailing to make sure that that internal plasterboard lining that you can see behind me doesn't have lots of unnecessary holes in it. So I'm just going to tilt my screen a bit. For example, we do things like every single room has got, you can't see it above me, but a ceiling fan that integrates a light. So that's one hole through the ceiling instead of multiple holes. On this helmet above my head, I haven't got it switched on, but is LED strip lighting. So we use a lot of wall-mounted lighting, again, to minimise holes through the ceiling. So every time you don't make a hole through your ceiling or other parts of the plasterboard lining, you're reducing air leakage, and you're also reducing the gaps in the insulation. So I really stress to people, and this is something you can fix in existing houses. Don't think you have to wait to do it in a new house. Renovation or retrofits can achieve great things by focusing on air tightness.
Just while we're on the subject of the modelling, what was the software that you use for that again, Jenny?
So it's all part of the National House Energy Rating Scheme, but there are three... NATERS, yep. But there are 3 different interfaces or different software packages that use the same engine, which is developed and maintained by CSIRO, and I use the package called BERS Pro.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And so aside from well, not aside from, so give us a quick rundown of the construction materials that you did use that you say are just basically off the shelf.
Yeah, so it's concrete slab. The one thing about our concrete slab that is a little bit unusual is we didn't do waffle pod slab construction, which is quite common and what we use on a lot of our houses. We used recycled plastic domes called Couplex domes, which reduces the amount of concrete needed in a slab, so I was keen to try that. But otherwise, it's a concrete slab, timber frame, walls and roof. My house is a mixture of brick veneer, so brick and plasterboard, and also some lightweight cladding with a product called WeatherTex, which is a fantastic reconstituted timber product. Very affordable. The bricks are just clay commons bricks, the cheapest bricks you can find. A lot of people render them or paint them, but I like them the way they are. And then a metal roof. And then the insulation levels are pretty standard. So are 2.5 batts in the walls. They fit in a standard 90mm stud frame. Are 6 batts on the ceiling. We often actually only do R5 in our houses, but the builder who was building mine had some R6 batts left over, so I said, go for it. And then PVC double glazed windows throughout. And in our climate, I've put a high transmission low E coating on the windows, which improves the conductive performance of the glass, so slows down the heat loss in winter and the heat gain in summer, but it doesn't compromise the solar passive gain. You want your windows in a climate like ours to have high solar heat gain coefficient. So if you're looking at doing something with windows, promise me that you'll learn about U values and SHGC values. I've got a little blog about it if you want to read it.
And it's been covered plenty of times in our 2 magazines as well.
Of course, yes.
Did you use a wall wrap, Jenny?
We used an external wrap. So all houses these days are wrapped externally. In the past, a lot of builders have used foil products. We haven't used a foil sarking or building wrap for many, many years. We use a product we describe as being vapour permeable. So we wrap the exterior of the frame, which helps with air tightness, but I stress that's not we're not relying on that for the air tightness. When you're talking about a house being airtight, you want the internal envelope, the plasterboard lining, to be airtight. But that it is providing some level of air tightness, which stops the air movement past the insulation, which helps it perform better. But it provides moisture management or moisture control. It protects the house from penetrating rain or water from the outside, so it provides some weather protection, but allows any moisture that gets into the wall cavity or into the roof space to then evaporate and move through that vapour permeable membrane and be released.
Yeah,
preventing condensation problems.
Excellent. And tell me, how's the finished house performing, Jenny?
Yeah, look, really well. I've actually got a couple of slides to help me illustrate that. So I'll go back, see how clever I can be, go back to screen sharing. And go to the next. Oops. Here we go. So this shows you the energy consumption of my house last winter. As everyone can imagine, in Canberra, where it gets very cold, winter, we use a lot of energy. So the vast majority of Canberra homes use electricity and gas. My house, of course, is all electric. So most Canberra homes, on average, are consuming about over 7,000 kilowatt hours of gas, and about the same amount of electricity as my all-electric home consumes. So you can see there's a massive difference in consumption. So we're about 20% or just under 20%. And when you convert that to dollars, because everyone thinks gas is cheap, gas is a little bit cheaper than electricity, but when you add up the differences and factor in the supply costs, the cost of running my house is about a third of running a typical Canberra family home. And it's really comfy. I think that's a big difference, because it doesn't have the air leakage on a really horrible, blustery, windy day like today. It's really still in here. It feels really nice. So yeah, we're very happy.
On the other hand, I'm sitting in my 1920s weatherboard, which we have retrofitted for draft proofing, but it's still chilly today on a windy, cold day.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, I understand that you didn't take off your scientist hat once the design modelling and post-build performance testing was finished, Jenny, but you and your family have actually been experimenting with a range of different heating options to see which one works best.
Yeah, I don't know if the rest of my family members would say they were participants in the experiment, but I couldn't resist the opportunity to do an experiment in our house. And as you mentioned earlier, I've actually written it up as a story in Renew. And So in the first year, in 2017, we built this house, or we completed construction of the house. I said, I want to go without heating altogether, which is not typical. We are in an extreme climate. All the houses we design do need some supplementary heating, but I wanted to measure the baseline performance of one of our houses with no heating. So the first year, we only had infrared heater panels, one 600-watt panel on the roof in each bathroom. I thought, I can't torture the family completely, but nothing in the bedrooms and nothing in the living areas. We survived that winter. It was actually the coldest winter in 40 years, and we had 3 consecutive -8s, so it was a great test. On that third consecutive -8, the room I'm in now got as low as 12.5 degrees, where it bottomed out, and then quickly picked up again. So that, again, when the air is still and the walls and the roof are warm, it's surprisingly comfortable. So well, I'm not going to do that every year, obviously, but it was good to know. So second year, we put a 900-watt infrared panel on the ceiling in each of the living spaces. And I measured the temperatures. What you can see here is a summary. I'll let people read the article, but a summary of the minimum and maximum averaged daily temperatures of the 3 consecutive winters. So we were more comfortable in 2018, but then in 2019 I installed a 3.5 kilowatt heat pump, or a reverse cycle air conditioning system in our lounge room, so in the middle living space. And that just smashed it out of the park. That one system, in combination with ceiling fans on low, heats our house beautifully. The boys have not turned on the bathroom heater, hasn't been on for 2 years, and we rarely used our southern bathroom heater. So I knew it was going to be good, but it even blew me away just how impressive and efficient that system was. Oh, and you're on mute.
Thank you for that. I have renovations happening next door, so I was trying to block the soaring noises. Anybody interested in a lot more detail on Jenny's experimentation with heating can read A Tale of 3 Winters, which is in Renew issue 149 from last year. So Jenny, what's your favourite thing about the house, and is there anything you'd do differently if you were doing it all again?
My favourite thing is the chair I'm looking at now. In my front dining space, we've got a little sitting space and 2 chairs and a little table, and it's just the most glorious part of the house. I sit and I chill out there. In winter, it's flooded with light. In summer, it's fully shaded. I get to look at my rapidly growing grapevines, or rapidly leaf-dropping grapevines at the moment, but it has been just such a delight, and that's the space. When you hear me talk about how we go away less often now, it's because I want to sit in that chair. I feel like I'm on holidays when I'm in that chair. So that's been great. Plus, we can now see garden out of every single window in the house, so you don't feel like you're in the suburbs anymore. You feel like you're in this little oasis, which is great. There is something I would change. This is to do with Zach, the solar passive dog. We largely designed our laundry as more of a luxury dog kennel than a laundry, and we sacrificed some storage space so he could fit his dog bed. But we also brought the heat pump storage tank inside. I don't regret doing that. It's a really efficient and clever thing to do, but we did lose a little bit more storage as a result. We've got lots and lots of storage throughout the house, so we're not short of storage overall, but there are times where we feel we could have done with a little bit more laundry storage, but that's about it. When you need to store toilet paper and things like that.
Yeah, large quantities of it. Thanks very much, Jenny. So we've got some listener questions coming in.
Cool.
So John asks, when do heat pumps make sense or not in your experience? I think he's talking about for heating.
All the time, I think. These days, I think like everybody, most people in Australia think of heat pumps as air conditioners. You know, we've been had grilled into us that air conditioners were for hot weather and that they're evil, energy guzzling things, but they've always been more efficient than anything else, and the new ones are incredibly efficient. And when you do get a reverse cycle system and can switch around to heat, they're amazing. one of the things I had to overcome was working with architects. There's this conception that they're ugly things on the wall, but I think you can design so they're less obvious. And certainly people don't notice mine. They walk underneath it and don't notice it's there. So I think just about all the time, I can't really think of a reason, and I'm frequently debating this with people who want to put in hydronic heating. But if you're interested in cost efficiency and energy efficiency and having the ability to heat and cool, then you really need to look at heat pumps.
Okay, thank you. Luke would like to know a little bit about mechanical ventilation, whether you have any, and what air tightness rating you achieved or figure you achieved.
Yep, this house has experiences 3.2 air changes per hour at a test pressure of differential of 50 pascals. So 3.2 air changes per hour at 50 pascals. To put that into perspective, most Australian homes are around 15. I've tested loads of Canberra homes that are between 15 and 30. The worst one was 40. And we routinely get houses between 3 and 6 air changes per hour now, just using standard construction. If you want to go much higher than that, you will have to introduce an internal air barrier. But given that I was getting that low, I was concerned that we might get to a point where we're compromising the indoor air quality, or the humidity might get to levels where we might have some condensation problems. So I did install 3 pairs of heat recovery ventilators, little Lunos E2 pairs. So it's not a centralised system. There's just a pair of inlet and outlet fans between the 2 living spaces, the rear 2 bedrooms, and David's study and the middle bedroom. I actually find I only need to run 1 or 2 over winter just to manage the humidity levels when we do close the house up completely. But because this house performs so well, we don't actually close it up completely, except in the real depths of winter. So today I have actually got all the windows closed. We did have a window open all night. Our bedroom window was open all night because we get comfortable and warm. So yes, mechanical ventilation plays an important part. But it's not needed in all houses. Again, we've done a great article on this. A rude shock for us this year was in summer when we had so much smoke. We normally rely on opening our houses to cool them down over summer and relying on that cross ventilation, which works beautifully, but we had never assumed that outdoor air quality was going to be so bad. So then I wanted to use my little mechanical ventilation systems and discovered that the filters in them were not up to dealing with smoke. So that's something that there's another article coming out in the next issue of Renew about that.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting space. There's going to be a lot of evolution in that space, I think, in response to last summer.
Yes, as you say, we at Sanctuary, we're just working on getting Sanctuary 51 to the printer in the next couple of weeks, and Jenny has contributed an article on her experience with air quality in Canberra over the last summer of bushfires and monitoring and what can be done. So keep your eye out for that, everybody. Next question, Jenny. David would like to know about solar panels, whether you have them and why or why not.
Yeah, look, I might flick to, I knew this one had come up, it always comes up. I'm going to flick to sharing my screen again to help answer this one. Bear with me. Oh, golly. There we go. So my roof, the largest expanse of my roof is oriented to the east. And you can just make out that it's actually a fairly large 2-storey house to the east of my home. So there was going to be, that was going to have a significant impact on my roof. And at the same time as we were designing and getting ready to build, Canberra's first community solar farm was happening. So I actually decided to be a seed investor in that. So I've got 3 kilowatts in the solar farm, which hopefully will start construction. It was meant to start this year. Hopefully COVID's not going to slow it down too much. But that 3 kilowatt slice will more than offset the entire energy consumption of my house. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, big fan of PV. I always say to people, put money into maximising the performance of your house, the building envelope, the design, and then PV, because PV is always coming down in price. So do that other stuff first.
Okay, Lyd would like to know, how come you didn't build double story, given that it's a small block?
A few reasons. 2 stories. Well, no, the main reason is I've had 2 hip replacements. So you probably won't hear that. But yeah, single level living is really important to me. And this house is our forever home. You know, we intend to live here for good. So I wanted us to be able to age in place. So single level was important to me. We did actually come up with a 2-story design. It's interesting you should say that. So there is a 2-story design that did leave even more yard. But again, I think that the nature of the clients, in both cases, downsizing, retirees next door, and me with wonky legs, wanted a single-story house.
Okay, so if another client came to you with a similar block, then that would be an option.
Yeah,
I imagine
definitely.
it would also make the build more expensive.
Yeah, it does. The main additional expense comes with the staircase, adds about 12 square metres of circulation space, and the staircase, of course, and then there's some extra costs working the scaffold on the second level, but it's really the extra chunk of footprint that you have to build to actually get the 2 stories that adds the cost.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Sid would like to know, if it's not too personal a question, just wondering what the construction cost was per square metre and how that compares with a typical Canberra house.
Yeah, no, great question. I'm glad you asked it. This house, the construction contract was $456, I think. I think I put the price as a bit higher in the magazine article, actually, to reflect current prices. It would actually be over $500,000 in the current Canberra market. Things have been going up steadily. But to put that into perspective, if we had gone to a project home builder and said we wanted a family home and looked at, the designs they've got, because they're going to want to work off the designs they've got. And by the time if we had upgraded it, the quality of the windows, from single glazed aluminium to double glazing, if we had said we wanted a slightly higher insulation, if we had tweaked anything, we would have ended up with a bigger house, undoubtedly a bigger house, probably closer to 200 square metres, but at 6-star performance. And we would have spent pretty much the same amount of money. So I've got less footprint, but a higher quality house. So a lot of those project homes have a bigger footprint, but the same number of functional spaces. And you've got a lot more house to heat and cool, a lot more house to clean and maintain. So I feel like it's a triple win. So I really encourage people to, by investing a bit of money in design up front, it's often a challenge for people to think that through, but if you invest in the design, the quality of the function and functionality of the spaces is going to be higher, and your running costs are going to be so much lower. That design will pay for itself. So sustainable houses do not have to be expensive houses. They don't cost a lot more than project homes. That's a bit of a myth. And our prices, I should say, are really inclusive of everything in the house, the driveways, the gates, the pergolas, you name it, everything you see, which is often not the case with project homes. They will often quote a much lower price and you add lots of things on.
Yeah. And I think our final question, Jenny, getting back to Zach the super dog, Alison would like to know, if you were to have a dog door, could you do so and still maintain the air tightness?
I do have a dog door. So my 3.2 air changes per hour is with a dog door. So in my laundry, I think if we don't have a picture on the website, I'll put one up so people can see my laundry door. It's a double glazed PVC door, and it has the top pane is a tilt and turn, has a tilt and turn mechanism, and the lower part is a fixed glass pane, and in that is a dog door. You can get super duper fancy airtight, really expensive dog doors. I didn't go for a top end one. So mine, it does leak a bit, but I have, as a result, and I've put in a solid internal laundry door. So the door between my laundry and my corridor is an external door. And it's actually got a double glazed pane in it and a blind. So again, luxury dog kennel for the dog. So we can look through and see what the dog's up to.
Excellent.
Dog doors can work in high performance homes.
Great. And one final question from me is that I remember you saying to me earlier that you have an unusual heat transfer system from the roof space to the slab. Jenny, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've got it. I haven't actually got it on. Haven't turned it on this year yet. But it's called the Ventus subflow system, and it's not to be confused with the more commonly known Ventus air transfer systems. So typically Ventus are known for their systems that take hot air from the roof space and pump it directly into this, you know, the living space around you. My system doesn't do that. Nothing from the roof comes in here. But because we've got that couple-X dome structure under the slab, there's actually a sealed air void under the slab. So there's an opportunity to take the hot air from up in the roof space, and we get plenty of it in Canberra because typically it's very sunny. Even though it's cold, it's very sunny, so the roof warms up quickly. And we can pump that down under the slab. So it's a very simple, small fan system, but it's got a clever little thermostat and thing that checks the temperature and the humidity, so it doesn't move air if it thinks there's any risk of condensation. But it takes that hot air under and circulates it under the slab. I think it doesn't add a huge amount, but I think it adds maybe half a degree, maybe closer to a degree on those really sunny days to the southern section of my slab. I've got raked ceilings in the front living area, so there isn't a roof space, but in the southern part of the house, there's a roof space, and the hot air there circulates under the southern part of the house.
Great. Okay, well, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much, Jenny, for your time and for sharing your story.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you'd like to watch this webinar again, it will be available on the Sanctuary Facebook page, although we missed the beginning, the technical hitch, and also on Renew's YouTube channel. You can read our article on Jenny's house, called Suburban Beach House, on our website at sanctuary.renew.org.au. Of course, if you'd like your own copy of the issue, you can get it in newsagents or order it directly from our web shop, currently with free shipping around Australia, free postage. And please also consider supporting us by subscribing to the magazine or joining Renew as a member, which includes a magazine subscription and other member benefits. And please like us on Facebook and Instagram if you haven't already. Thanks again, Jenny, for sharing your story, and thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers. Stay warm. Stay well.